You know this feeling. It's the third hour of scrolling, and your feed is a relentless stream of crisis, division, and outrage. This sensory overload triggers the veil of duality. To keep us alive in hostile environments, our survival instincts learn to instantly categorize a complex world into absolute extremes, safe or lethal, pure good or pure evil. When you perceive a threat, even a digital one, the amygdala triggers a system-wide lockdown. It hijacks the prefrontal cortex, trapping your nervous system in an anxiety loop. Modern media algorithms exploit this vulnerability, feeding you curated, one-sided narratives that continually strike this exact biological tripwire. But if you pull back far enough to view human history from a cosmic vantage point, a different pattern emerges. What appears to be a breaking world is the execution of a natural, breathing rhythm of expansion and contraction. The modern crisis stems from a mechanical failure, our nervous system's inability to perceive both sides of a single event, a rhythm ancient philosophers called the cosmic breath. In the deep vacuum of space, a dying star collapses under its own gravity. This total compression is the exact structural requirement for forging the heavy elements that seed new galaxies. This same mechanical necessity governs the ancient principles of yin and yang. They describe a binary pulse where chaos acts as the specific catalyst for the new forms of order required to balance it. In recent decades, Dr. John DeMartini mapped these mechanics into an empirical framework. He recognized that our suffering comes from a perceptual error and developed a method to restore the mind's equilibrium. We can picture this process as a mental ledger called the dragon's mirror. When faced with a crisis, you identify the specific, measurable benefits concealed within the apparent loss. You list them out, matching the weight of the drawback, one for one, until the emotional charge neutralizes. DeMartini's process treats perception as a calculation. By identifying 14 specific benefits for every 14 specific drawbacks, the practitioner uses the prefrontal cortex to physically neutralize emotional reactivity. Apply this calculation to the systems that govern us. Systemic political corruption, no-bid contracts, backroom deals, and consolidated wealth generates a visceral public rage and a loss of trust. Yet hidden inside that overextension of power is a required counterforce. The consolidation of authority secretes its own antidote by awakening a society's civic immune system, forcing transparency that would not have existed otherwise. Consider the mid-20th century. Decades of unchecked intelligence operations and domestic surveillance directly compelled the formation of the Church Committee. The scale of the abuse mathematically mandated the creation of new structural oversight. When institutional secrecy reaches an extreme, the system inevitably generates whistleblowers. Individuals like Daniel Ellsberg function as human instruments of balance, stepping forward to shatter monopolies on information. The resulting leaks, like the Pentagon Papers, deposited new data into the cultural memory, establishing statutory press protections and shifting how citizens analyze executive power. Corruption acts as a pressure valve. The very scandal that threatens to break a system simultaneously triggers the investigative journalism and oversight institutions required to evolve it. The most difficult trial of this method is war. The physical reality of cratered cities, displaced families, and generational trauma is undeniable. But identifying the counterweight reveals that this horror also accelerates international humanitarian networks, advances trauma medicine, and drives younger generations toward a fierce spiritual repudiation of militarism. This law operates at a planetary scale as well. Massive environmental disruptions, like burning forests and melting ice, act as a violent macro-scale correction to human excess. The toxicity of the Chernobyl disaster forced a mass human evacuation, transforming a radioactive exclusion zone into one of Europe's largest unintended wildlife sanctuaries. Ecological collapse consistently forces humanity to abandon extractive habits and innovate toward regenerative design. Forcing the mind to list these exact mathematical benefits causes the autonomic nervous system to step down from its state of alarm. You collapse the paralyzing emotional charge of the crisis by completing the perceptual field. Once that emotional charge is neutralized, despair and righteous rage evaporate. What takes their place is a clear-sighted, unburdened equanimity. The ancient Taoists called this state Wu Wei. It's the ability to act decisively without forcing, moving in alignment with reality, not reacting to half-truths. Equilibrated perception removes the cloud of ideology, leaving only the ability to participate in events with surgical precision. The next time you are shattered by a personal loss or enraged by a headline, you have a choice. You can intervene in your own neurology, list the hidden benefits, and find the equilibrium. You must stop waiting for the world to magically balance itself. See the hidden order, hold both sides of the coin, and become the conscious balance walking the earth.